Hello everyone, Storm 101 here. Today we'll be talking about a storm system that's going to bring big problems across parts of the central and eastern U.S. It's got a winter storm threat, ice and sleet, severe weather, and also some strong wind gusts as well, without showers or storms as well. Before we get started on this video, if you guys like weather-related content, you can subscribe to my channel. We do this stuff here all the time on this channel. Plus, we'll be having more updates on the system here over the next couple of days, so definitely stay tuned for more updates as well. So we're going to get started with the current alerts, and things are becoming a little bit more active out there. And there's several things going on out here. So one of the more noticeable things is that we got red flag warnings across parts of the central and southern plains. And there's also another area of red flag warnings around Mississippi as well. You don't see red flag warnings down there very often. But just to the north, we got wind advisories across parts of the Ohio Valley and the lower Ohio Valley as well. Most of this is going to be for tomorrow. Winds are expected to be pretty gusty tomorrow. Uh, we could definitely see 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts in those areas there. And that's all due to the sunshine being out. And plus, you do have the close pressure gradient over those areas as well, which in that case, that leads to stronger wind gusts. We also got in these green boxes here, these, well, dark green, these are flash flood watches. This is going to be quite a rain producer. We could sort of see 1 to 3 inches of rain out of the system. And these blue boxes here, those are winter storm watches as well. It looks like they're now getting ready to issue those as well. So things are about to get pretty active over the next couple days in the U.S., especially in the central and parts of the eastern U.S. Here's the storm prediction and outlook for today. Maybe some thunder for parts of California, Nevada, and Arizona. You don't see that very often down there, which they definitely need some of that rain as well. So then again, a chance for some showers and thunderstorms for areas that desperately need rain. That includes the Las Vegas area. But tomorrow, things become a little bit more active. We got slight risk for severe weather for parts of northern Texas and Oklahoma. Things have been trending a little bit slower with this system. So it seems like they have moved this back further to the west as well. Still no enhanced risk upgrade, which honestly I'm not expecting an enhanced risk upgrade on this event as well. Plus, this is going to be an overnight event. This is not going to be happening during the daytime hours tomorrow. It's mostly going to be dry. It will be a little bit windy. It's going to be happening overnight hours. Really, for most of the day, we're going to have what's known as a cap, and it prevents from showers and storms from developing. So that's what we're going to be seeing through the majority of the day, but eventually that's going to break overnight, and that's going to lead to some showers and storms to develop. There is that risk for some tornadoes out there. You got that 5% risk. Damage and winds would be the main threat, but we also got to watch out for that hail threat as well. We got pretty good lap rates out there, which could lead to some hail out there as well. But currently, they're maintaining it's a slight risk, and there might be a low end chance they may issue an enhanced, but honestly, I think they're going to maintain a slight. But what day they may have a better chance for an enhanced risk would be day 3, which is Thursday. We got a large slight risk area. This includes most of Arkansas, northeastern Louisiana, most of Mississippi, the western half of Alabama, western Tennessee, southeastern Missouri, and far southwestern Kentucky as well. And you got that marginal risk that extends as far east as parts of Virginia and the Carolinas as well. If there's going to be an enhanced risk issued by the Storm Prediction, or at least for what things are currently looking like, it probably be somewhere in the parts of the Mississippi vicinity, especially central and northern Mississippi, which we'll check out the agreements for that in just a moment. Let's first check out the GFS model, and it's been very stubborn on that track there, which is very surprising. But then again, I still believe it's going to be first half. Well, actually, it's a little bit further south on this 12Z run, and I think we are starting to get into a better agreement, at least track-wise, of the low. It was like north of Indianapolis, so it looks like at this point here for the GFS, it still looks like it goes through Indianapolis, eventually moves through up into northern Ohio. I also do notice in the back side of the low, got a lot of snow going on back there. So definitely has a winter storm threat with this as well. Plus, with those close isobars, especially when we get up to the northeast, could be some strong winds out there as well. here's the European model. Let's get into a more national view for this one. If it loads pretty slow, we'll probably move on to the next thing, which is like that's not going to be the case, which is good. But here's the European model. It's actually trended a little bit south with the low, and I think this is about right. Um, I do believe the low is going to track, so probably getting as far south as maybe beginning in parts of central southern Oklahoma, moving through southern Missouri, maybe northern Arkansas, moving through south central Illinois, southern Indiana, uh, maybe for central Ohio, and eventually moving through northwestern Pennsylvania, and it just moves up into the northeast as well. Even with a southern track here, really, if there's an area that has the best opportunity to see winter storm-like conditions, it might be for parts of far northern New York and probably far northern New Hampshire as well. We'll have an opportunity to see maybe at least mostly snow out of this. But you also do notice in the warm sector, you do have some showers and storms ongoing, which if we go to the early morning hours on Thursday, it does show some storms developing along the dry line from central Texas up into central Oklahoma. Those are the ones that have the potential to produce severe weather. And it seems like kind of dies out, but when we get into Thursday, our showers and thunderstorms do continue to move off to the east, and these are actually, look to be more on the discrete side as well. You also notice further up north here, really the biggest uncertainty for areas a little bit further north up in Tennessee, Kentucky, is that can we clear out these showers and storms in time here so we could get a little bit of instability? Which, by the way, instability is still a big question on this setup as well. But from the European model's prediction here, from the precipitation type map, it's got the potential for strong and severe storms as far north as central and southern Kentucky, all the way down to parts of Mississippi and Alabama. And then again, if these storms do become in a organized squall line, which that helps decrease the tornado threat, especially the significant tornado threat, but that increases your damage wind threat. There is going to be a lot of wind dynamics and energy up there in the upper parts of the atmosphere as well, especially that load of a jet still looking very strong out there. Definitely not going to have a shortage when it comes to wind shear. So we're going to check out the HER model, which it still does not go for the entire event yet, but you can kind of tell from its earlier runs. You see here our low is now popping up on the bottom left of your screen. It's got 1,000 millibar low in southeastern Oklahoma. So it's kind of one of the models that's a little bit further south with the low. In that warm sector, you do have some scattered storms going on out there. It's also a little bit stronger with the low as well than some of the other models. It's kind of like the GFS showing a stronger low with this. And this is the max in on the run here. We'll probably have a better idea if the HER model would suggest tomorrow. But look at all that snow on the backside here. There's a lot of snow going on here. And you also do notice, just to the south of that, we do have that mix of freezing rain and sleet, which we'll talk about those amounts there towards the end of the video. But that's what the HER model is predicting, at least at this time here. Honestly, it's a little bit too early to talk about ingredients on this model here, since it doesn't go for the entire event yet. But what does go for the entire event now is the high-res NAM, which in this case here, high-res NAM takes it on a little bit of a northern track here, and it's also doesn't show much in the way of coverage of showers or thunderstorms. That's not a good thing, because especially if we could get breaks in the clouds here, if we get a little bit of sunshine, that's going to help increase those instability values as well. If we do see warmer temperatures at the surface, that does lead to higher instability values as well. Which in this case here, from the high-res NAM, which doesn't really do a good job when it comes to reflectivity, it likes to cluster things up. But regardless, it doesn't have a whole lot of activity out there. It really doesn't. Which is a little bit of a concern. As well, you can see here later on the day here, you got storms firing up. You do have a little bit of a squall line moving from southern Kentucky into northern Mississippi. And just out ahead of that, you got some storms out here. And then The ones in Mississippi are the ones I would pay attention more for that significant tornado potential. That's where we have greater instability values. Plus, that's where storms will become a little bit more discrete. Now, areas further up north, I think we'll be talking about more of a squall line type of threat when it comes to severe weather. There's going to be a narrow window for instability. There really is. If we get there again, you can see here at one point, it does show a line that's with showers of storms from central Kentucky all the way down to parts of Mississippi and Alabama. And this is getting into the evening hours, and it kind of moves through the mountains or the Appalachian Mountains at that point as well. Let's talk about them updraft holistic swaths. This kind of tells you where some of the strongest storms are and where your storms have the potential to rotate as well. Higher the numbers, stronger the rotation of the storms would be. So it kind of gives you a little bit of an idea. And for right now, it's not very impressive at all. It does have a couple stripes here in parts of Kentucky and Tennessee. There's not many stripes going on down here at this point here. So it does show that risk for some rotating storms as well. But then again, it all depends on the instability. If we do see higher instability values, that can lead to more organized storms, and that increases that significant severe weather threat. So we still have that on the table. And the models may run a little bit cold on this. That's also a possibility as well. And when you have models run on cold, they can underestimate these instability values. And the HER model does handle these setups a little bit better. If there's a model that I probably want to follow on this event, it'll probably have to be the HER model. But then again, we're still far away from the HER model getting range. So if you look into Wednesday night here, it does have quite a bit of instability across central Oklahoma. Not a whole lot of instability down in Texas, but if we do get a sounding out here, this was what I was talking about when we get a cap. So maybe our photograph is not bad, but look what's going on here. When the red line crosses this yellow dotted line, you got a cap. Thunderstorms cannot develop in that type of an environment. It cannot. So basically, it's hitting a wall pretty much. These updrafts are just basically hitting this little wall here. And when the cap erodes away, then those updrafts can finally go up to the upper parts of the atmosphere, which you can also see here. The lap rates are pretty good, especially in the upper levels. That's what's going to help increase that hail risk as well. That's going to lead to some stronger updrafts out there. So even though we got a good amount of instability, you still got this limiting factor out there. That's probably one of the reasons why we do not have an enhanced risk because of that factor as well. Plus, you still got inserted with the instability. And with the high-risk NAM, it does have some pretty decent instability values in Mississippi. And that's why I was saying earlier in the video, where we probably have an enhanced risk somewhere in parts of central and northern Mississippi. You got a good load of a jet. This is also where some of the higher instability values may be in place. Which when we check that out, you got instability values up to 1,000 joules per kilogram. That's pretty good for severe weather for this time of year. Lap rates are also not too bad, which I consider decent. Lap rates 6.5 and above, which you know some of them are pretty close. There, you got pretty good dew point, 2.68. I think that's a little bit high for the higher-risk NAM, but regardless, this is a pretty good sounding. Our photograph is pretty large. It also indicates that there is going to be some fast-moving storms out there as well. So that's another thing. These storms are going to be moving fairly quickly. Plenty of wind shear going on. Storm wave to helicity amounts are over 300. And we also got wind direction of height here going on. At the surface, it's almost due south, but just in the upper levels, right around 850 millibars, it's from the southwest. And that leads to a good amount of wind shear as well. So, yeah, this is a pretty good sounding here. This will be favorable for that potential, maybe even for a stronger tornado as well. It all depends on how much instability you can get. And you can see here some of the instability values do get as far north as parts of the lower Ohio Valley. It's hard to see, but from my eyes, I can still see some instability up there. And of course, when you get to overnight hours, some of the instability values start to erode away at that point. I don't think there's anything else to look at. We could probably check out the significant tornado parameters. And really over a 1, that's I consider a tornado threat. Over a 2, that's what I consider a strong tornado threat. Or at least a favorable environment. That's probably the best way to put it, which this is what soundings are for because it's got numbers up to a 1. You still got that cap in place. So in reality, there's not necessarily the conditions are favorable, but that one cap, that one thing going on, is going to prevent severe weather from happening. It all depends on whether that cap is going to erode. And you can see here where some of the soundings where we're checking out, such as Mississippi, it does have an elevated tornado threat out there as well. It doesn't necessarily get up to 2, but it does have that tornado risk out there as well. That's where you got those blue colors out there. That's at least a 1. Let's check out the NAM model, and you know what? On its latest run, it does take it on a little bit more of a north track, but it is further south than its previous run. So we are starting to get to a better agreement with the track is low. You also notice here there's a decent amount of shower thunderstorm activity going on out there. And at the same time, on the backside of this low, we got that mix of sleet and freeze rain. And then you also got a lot of snow going on up there as well. So let's check out. Apologies if you hear anything in the background. So let's check out surface-based CAPE here from the NAM, see how much instability it's got out there. And you can see here, a decent amount of instability out there is not as high as the high-res NAM. We'll get sounding out there in eastern Oklahoma. And you can see here, again, it's a similar scenario. Even though you got a decent amount of CAPE, good amount of wind shear, you got that cap. That's a very strong cap. Thunderstorms are definitely not going to develop in a cap like that, certainly. So this is going to be a limiting factor for once they set up here. So honestly, I don't think we're going to see an enhanced risk upgrade unless if we get better confidence that the cap is going to erode a little bit quicker. And okay, so this is getting into Thursday evening. You got pretty good instability values getting as far north as southeastern Missouri. So we do get a sounding out there. You can see here, it looks like this is behind the front here. There's not any wind shear at all out there. So that actually might be just be behind the front. We'll check out when we get to see the significant tornado parameters. As you get further south. Okay, it looks like all this stuff here is behind the front. What about Mississippi? Can we get a good sounding here? No. Let's check out the significant torque parameters, see if we can get a better sounding here. Because I think these instability values are actually behind the front because it shows like no instability out there at all. Okay. So you can see some of those elevated numbers out there. Here we go. Here's finally a sounding we can look at. And you can see our instability values are on the lower end. But in the overnight hours, you have to pay a little bit more attention with the mixed layer CAPE, which is actually near 500. Surface-based CAPE may go away, but the mixed layer CAPE is still going to be around. That's what's going to help keep up some of these storms into the overnight hours is that mixed layer CAPE. It sticks around longer than the surface CAPE. Not a terrible sounding, I would say here. Lap rates are definitely on the weaker side. Still plenty of wind shear out there, of course. And it does have some of the greatest potential for severe weather in Mississippi. Like I was saying about that level of jet being pretty strong, this is the latest NAM here when it comes to wind shear. And anytime when you get above 50 knots, that's a pretty good level of jet. But when you get over 80 knots, that's some pretty impressive. That's a pretty impressive low of a jet. Luckily, it doesn't have numbers up to 90 knots. I mean, that's ridiculous. Um, but regardless if it's 90 knots or 80 knots, you still got a strong low of a jet. And that's what's going to help keep that wind shear very high. It's this strong low of a jet out there. But this is also what's going to help keep that deep damage wind threat. Which if we, something I almost forgot to show you guys is the dew points. And really, pay attention to areas where we got at least a 60 dew point, because that's where you can actually see some instability when you get dew points above 60. Which in this case here, it does have 60 plus dew points as far north as southeastern Missouri, southern Illinois, and also parts of southwestern Kentucky, and also parts of southern Kentucky. If you are at least above 60 dew points, you're in a pretty decent environment for severe weather. Even areas that's like 58, 59, I'll say it's at least still a favorable environment for some strong storms, and I think the main threat would be damaging winds. It's going to be a lot of wind energy, but I don't think there's going to be much in the way of instability for a tornado threat. I think the tornado threat will stay isolated further up north, but the greatest tornado threat I do believe it's going to be in Mississippi, especially central and northern Mississippi, and I could get into parts of western Alabama later in the night as well. Even without showers or thunderstorms, it is going to be pretty windy. If those wind advisories tomorrow, you can see here from the European model, it's got some of the strongest wind gusts more focused in Kentucky and Ohio. But regardless, even outside of that, it's got wind gusts over 40 miles an hour out there. And then here's for Thursday's event. Look at those wind gusts, 40 to 50 miles an hour, and in some areas getting 50 to 60 miles an hour in some places as well. And this is without thunderstorms. This is outside showers and thunderstorms. You got wind gusts up to 50 to 60 miles an hour showing up from the Euro. Here's the NAMO. Luckily, it's backed off some of those wind gusts, but we're still got some strong wind gusts. 50 to 60 mile an hour wind gusts out there for later in the day on Thursday. So it's certainly going to be very windy out there. And here's the high-res NAM. Pretty much the same thing when it comes to wind gusts. Generally 50 to 60 miles an hour. Now, I think some of these numbers are a little bit overdone. I think max wind gust wise is going to be anywhere from 45 to 55 miles an hour. I don't think we're going to see wind gusts at least 60 miles an hour. If there's something out there that's going to make it go at least 60 miles an hour, it's probably going to be those showers and storms out there as well. Here's the GFS, still being the most aggressive model when it comes to wind gust. It's got wind gusts getting close to 70 miles an hour, which is likely overdone. But either way, it's going to be very windy out there. So if you got any loose items, garbage can, furniture, maybe either take them in or tie them down, because it's going to be windy. And a lot of this wind here will begin tomorrow, and it will calm down through the overnight hours on Wednesday night. But the windiest time would be Thursday afternoon into the evening hours as well. All right, let's quickly talk about the winter side of things on the system here. And I think the best model to look at is probably going to be the Euro. And you can see here quite a bit of snow showing from the European model. Generally a swath of 6 to 10 inches of snow from parts of Kansas through northern Missouri, central Illinois, northern Indiana, northwestern Ohio, and southeastern Michigan. And for parts of the Northeast, I think the best opportunity to see a decent amount of snow will probably be far northern Maine, but even for parts of around the Buffalo, New York area, and also for parts of far northern New York, could also see a decent amount of snow as well. And I'm talking about the ice accumulations. A lot of the higher resolution models could be likely to be well overdone. If you remember from the last one we talked about an ice storm, which is a little over a week ago, we talked about how heavy freeze rain does not accumulate as well as light to moderate freeze rain. This is going to be that same scenario. And I think the more accurate way to look into ice amounts is probably using the European model. You'll see ice accumulations out there from some of the higher resolution models. It's got half an inch to 3/4 of an inch. It's just going to be well overdone. So I think the best way to look at it is probably from the European model, and I think it's generally could be a 1/10 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch of ice, and there might be isolated 1/4 of an inch plus out there, so there could be an ice storm out there as well. And all this will have to depend on the track of the low. If it's further south, the freeze rain line is going to come with it as well. And at least it's not going to be a wide swath of freeze rain. I think it's going to be more of a skinny corridor as well, at least. But anyways, guys, that's all for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Guys, like this video, hit the like button. If you guys like my channel, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notifications to never miss an upload. If you guys have questions about this, put the comment section down below. Or answer you guys questions. and I'll see you guys on the next video. Goodbye and have a good day.